All right, that's enough of that. Hey friends, my name is Dave Good. I teach people how to play the saxophone, and that was the very first lick I ever learned how to play on a Conn Shooting Star alto saxophone. So I'm using the Conn 6M, beautiful alto saxophone tonight to recreate the the lick that I learned how to play when I was 11 years old. Yeah, something like that, 11 years old, and I was in school band at Henry Clay Elementary School near La Mesa in Southern California, and I was asked to join an after-school rock and roll band founded by a guy who could play the drum solo to the song. The melody that I just played for you is called Wipeout. Wipeout by a band called the Surfaris. And at the time they recorded that, none of them were much older than we. Well, yeah, maybe they're like 19s and 20s, but they were young men considerably. And so we learned this song. Now, I learned a good deal of what I would carry forward. I kind of didn't know how to articulate it at the time, but later on, the lessons that I learned in that one simple learning of that one melodic line, that one lick, would stick with me forever and be reinforced for the next several years as I progressed as a rock and roll and soul and R&B saxophone player. I didn't know from jazz till I got to high school, and I was, 15, 16 years old at that point. So 10 years old, 11 years old, the Beatles had already come to America and been on the Ed Sullivan Show. I think this is probably like 1965, maybe 1966, somewhere in that ballpark. 65, 66 when we put this band together. And Chris Anderson, I think, was the linchpin of the band. Chris, really cool guy. If you're watching, how you doing, brother? He had a sparkle tone blue drum kit. And just being in the room with this drum kit made you feel better, right? Every storefront on the boulevard was now carrying electric guitars, all right? The electric guitar invasion followed the Beatles invasion, the British invasion, right? Electric guitars and amplifiers. And let's see what else. Oh, garage bands. Yes, and this was, of course, a garage band. We practiced this over at Chris Anderson's house after school. School band, and I mean, I don't want to cast say anything bad about school band. It's a great experience for so many of us to be in school band. We get our chops, we learn how to play our instruments, we learn fingering and how to play with a group and make something bigger than ourselves, and hopefully how to play in tune. But it was this rock band experience after school that set the hook for me. And we got to play this song at one time only, and it was at the 6th grade graduation talent show. And the Beatles had introduced screaming throngs. I almost said thongs. Now I don't go there. Screaming throngs, and so all the 6th grade girls in our class, were screaming, and everybody was cheering. And so that was an exciting day for the 2.5 minutes that the song lasted. Chris was a kid that could play the drum solo. Look Wipeout up on YouTube and you'll find that it's mostly a drum solo with very little melody. Now, I learned this not from the record, not from YouTube, because there wasn't YouTube. There weren't smartphones. None of that existed. I learned this from the guitar player. Now, I think we probably had 4 guitar players in the band, at least 3, and we didn't have a bass guitar. So one of them played the bass lines on the bottom, I guess, 4 strings of the guitar. We were sophisticated at least to know that that should happen. We didn't have a bass, so somebody was going to have to fake it, right? So we had maybe 3 people hunking away on the melody. Guitars are amplified. These are electric guitars, and they're so beautiful. These beautiful sunburst finished guitars. I'd never seen anything like that. And the amplifiers were cool. They were loud and they were cool, and they spoke to you. You could feel them in your chest, right? And this sparkle tone blue drum kit with these cymbals and the sound of this, and just like I said, the look of this sparkle tone blue drum kit, just to be in the room with that was so cool. So to learn this song and to practice it with these guys was an experience. I learned it by ear. So this would start, this would at the age of 11, this would start me on a trajectory of learning to play songs by ear. We didn't have any music. We didn't write anything down. We didn't even own the record. We just, I don't know how the guitar players learned it, but they did. And we played it in their key. Now, moving forward to performance day, all right? Nothing on a stage will sound like you sound surrounded by your homies in the garage. Right? The garage is like loud and boomy and crazy. When you get up on stage, all that sound is spread out to your left and to your right, and the drums are now behind you. Generally, when you practice in the garage, you kind of all face each other in a circle. That doesn't happen on stage. So that's the first thing that happens that's really disorienting. It's like, whoa. Second thing that happens is you realize that you have an acoustic instrument and you have to play it really, really loud. Now, what happens when you blow a saxophone really, really loud? It goes flat, doesn't it? Yes, it does. It goes out of tune, it goes flat. So over the years, I didn't learn it in this instance, but over the years I've learned that if I'm going to play with rock bands, if I'm the acoustic guy on stage and a mix of amplifiers, I'm going to tune sharp. Your natural inclination is always to match the volume that's surrounding you. Even though you're playing through a microphone and the microphone is going through a public address system or big speakers, house speakers, maybe even, one of the guitar speakers, whatever. Even though you're still going to try to match and you've got an acoustic, like a loud drum set behind you and the other amps are behind you and they're pushing all that sound in your direction, even if you've got in-ear monitors, which is very modern, they hadn't been invented at that point in time. I know this is like back in the days of, like, there were still dinosaurs, the big friendly grass-eating ones. The meat eaters had gone extinct, but you could look out the window of your classroom and see a brontosaurus walk by. Okay, all right, Dave. Shut up, Dave. Just get back to the lesson. Anyway, the alto sax was my first saxophone, and it was for a lot of you, I'm sure. It was an instrument that my parents could afford, and I could hold it. It wasn't that a big, gigantic tenor sax, although a tenor sax was present in the original band. The Surfaris had Jim Pash, P-A-S-H on tenor. Maybe it's P-A-S-C-H, P-A-S-H on tenor. And he was playing, and it was just cool. So that was just one shot at glory that taught me so much. It taught me transcription by ear. It taught me how to match sound. It taught me what happens when you leave the practice garage and get up on a stage. It taught me that, when you overblow, your saxophone goes way out of tune. You don't have these experiences in class, in school band, when you're playing, hot cross buns with 40 other kids that are relatively inexperienced with their instruments. You don't really have those experiences. So when you're playing with these, these loud rockers and you're practicing and you're trying to work this thing out. Plus, I also played, accidentals that wouldn't have been in any of the school band charts. E, E, G, G sharp A. Right? And C and a C sharp, we wouldn't have had those kinds of experiences in the school band system yet. No, they were coming later, but probably not till junior high school. So anyway, this was all really advanced stuff for me. And it set me on a course, it set me on a trajectory. And later on, in years of playing with rock bands and loud bands, I would refine the approach. Now, the last thing I want to tell you, and I didn't learn this then, I experienced it, like feedback and squealing of the microphone on stage. Nobody really knew what we were doing. And I think they gave us, I had probably the big honkin' square microphone that, those big silver things that the principal of the school announced us on. I think she lowered it and I played into that and it squealed and squawked and it was pretty crazy. That in and of itself is a lesson and a whole chapter in a book that should be written about playing, the one acoustic instrument on stage, blowing, trying to, keep up with guitars, basses, and amplified keyboards and the ever loud drum kit, right? So you're at the mercy basically of the sound guy or sound woman, the sound person. Let's just be politically correct here. You are playing their mix, right? And if you don't learn a little bit about how to EQ your sound or how to suggest EQ or how to maybe ask them to add a little bit of delay and to do a sound check, with you, not just you by yourself to test the microphone, but a sound check with you, a hot mic, as the rest of the band is playing at volume, right? You're not going to get anywhere. You're going to be like the dwarf on stage. You'll be like blowing your heart out, and nobody's going to be able to hear you, right? Because your sound is going to be just dwarfed by the the amplifiers and the drums and the resonance of the room and all that sort of thing. So that's just a little sample of the kinds of things that I learned that I would work and carry forward and learn and experience and expand upon and get better at over the years. You want to dig deeper on any of this stuff that I'm talking about today? Let's do a lesson. Let's do a private session. If you're in my neighborhood here in Southern California, davegoodsax@gmail.com gets right to me. davegoodsax@gmail.com, or you can leave a comment in the comments below, or we can do something on Zoom. I've got the Zoom package now, so we can have unlimited time on Zoom. Well, not exactly, because these minutes are precious, but we can actually do an hour lesson on Zoom now, if you'd like, from anywhere in the world that has good Wi-Fi, good connection. So again, reach out to me at davegoodsax@gmail.com, and we can set something up for you. And if you're a performing sax, or you're thinking about getting into performing, and you're looking at hooking up with a band and playing some loud music, by all means, let's talk some more, okay? davegoodsax@gmail.com. So glad to have all of you on board. Well over 450 now, I think 467, which is just, I know, some people have 1 million. I know, I don't care. This is so cool. I mean, I started this out for students years ago, actually last year, I think. So not really years ago, I think last year, a couple of students wanted me to put things on YouTube, and I started doing that, and people found us and started subscribing. So if you haven't subscribed yet, hit the button. And if you have ideas for future episodes, questions you'd like to ask, again, leave them in the comments below, or reach out to me at davegoodsax@gmail.com. All right, everybody, Wipeout. Have a good evening. It's evening here, at least where I am, so I presume it is where you are too. Of course, when you're watching this, whenever you're watching it. That's the beauty of the internet, right? All right, hey, take care. Thank you for being here, and I'll catch you again next time.